Yes, Jingfeng, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
All right, Matthias will just lead at the beginning to introduce you. So we'll just wait a couple of minutes and then hopefully we get started.
Hi, Hans, I'm here.
Hi,
Hi, Yasmin.
Hi.
Hello, Jingfeng.
Yeah, hi.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I see people are slowly joining. I'm just giving a quick the housekeeping rules before we start the main seminar. Please change your name. If we could have the housekeeping rules on the screen, if possible. If possible, change your name to the affiliation and your full name. Always mute your microphone to not disrupt the speakers. We have a question and answer section at the end. If you want to ask questions, please raise your hands or use the chat box and I can ask the questions to the speakers. And we are also providing simultaneous interpretation very soon. So if you toggle over the screen, there will be a button appearing and you can toggle between English and Russian. For all the speakers, while you speak and if the bandwidth allows, please keep your video turned on so we can put a face to your name. We're just going to wait for one more minute and give everyone the chance to join. Thank you. Okay, I think we can start. I see more and more people joining. Let me, okay, yeah. So again, a reminder for the speakers, if possible, keep your video on if your internet connection allows it. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone, wherever you are. Welcome to our webinar, jointly organized by the Rural Development and Food Security Thematic Group and the Central and West Asia Department of ADB. We have a truly international panel of speakers today to discuss with us how wholesale markets can stay competitive in the future and what kind of innovation will need to take place. Let me start with some opening remarks by Jingfeng and Yasmin. Feng Zhang is the Chief of the Rural Development and Food Security Thematic Group in the Sustainable Development and Climate Change Department here at ADB. Jingfeng, please.
Yes, thank you so much, Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of the Rural Development and the Food Security Thematic Group, I would like to welcome one of you to join this important webinar, Wholesale Agricultural Markets Innovation for Competitive Future. This webinar is an integral part of our flagship webinar series on sustainable food systems. It is also the first such kind event that has been jointly organized by the SDCC and also one of our Environment, Natural Resources, Agriculture Division in the regional department. By taking this opportunity, I want to extend a special welcome to the Deputy Director General of Central and West Asia Department, Mr. Lian Sanzhang, and also, of course, the numerous speakers who have kindly to make themselves available from both the private and also the government sectors. As one of you know, the wholesale markets play very important role in the distribution of the agricultural production, as well as contribute to the aggregation of the commodities, formation of the prices, quality assurance, meeting the needs of the consumers for increasingly diversified demand, and also meeting the number of the government objectives such as food safety, promotion of the farmer income, and also the, of course, the price stabilization. Over the past decades, wholesale markets have witnessed a number of the challenges, like emergency of the global value chains, large organized distribution, the greater attention of the consumer demand to quality, safety, a number of the features of the organic, guaranteed origin, and also, of course, the traceability of the products, and also, of course, is the emerging application of digital and the e-commerce platform. Most recently, the markets also had to respond to the challenging of the COVID-19 pandemic. So today we will see in examples how the wholesale markets have evolved over time, particularly in the European markets, and also become a powerhouse in the food business, and also contribute to food security, employment, and also economic growth. This will provide a very important opportunity to compare with the experiences of the markets in Central Asia, and of course the other regions, they like the East Europe and also the Southeast Asia as well. It is for sure the insights get from today's discussions will inform ADB future investments in improving food distribution in the Central Asia region. And of course, there's also the other regional operations as well. So today, I'm very happy to see this event to take place, and also look forward to hearing the presentations and also responses from our distinguished panel. I think this should be a very interesting webinar for everyone who has kindly joined today's discussions. Back to you, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Xinfeng, for your opening remarks. Let me turn over to Yasmin now. Yasmin Siddiq is the Director of the Environment, Natural Resources and Agriculture Division in the Central and West Asia Department here at ADB as well. Yasmin, over to you, please.
Thank you, Matthias, and thank you very much, Xinfeng, for your opening remarks as well. And a very warm welcome to our dear participants and speakers who have joined us kindly from a range of countries. We welcome you to this event today. It's ADB's, I would say, probably first event to share insights on modern wholesale markets. I'd like to thank our organizers, particularly to Hans Waldring and Matthias Leitner and Noriko Sato, who've led from our team in the Environment, Agriculture and Natural Resources Division of the Central and West Asia Department. And also a big thank you for the support provided for hosting this joint event to the Agricultural Development and Food Security thematic group. In our department, which is the Central and West Asia Department, we cover 10 developing member countries whose food systems can all benefit from further advancement for producers, consumers, and the broader economy. Importantly, these 10 countries represent a really diverse range of challenges and opportunities. We cover countries all the way from Pakistan to Georgia and Armenia on the footsteps of Europe. So quite a diverse region. In particular, for this webinar, we're looking at the support provided to the governments of the Kyrgyz Republic and to government of Pakistan to develop their wholesale agriculture market systems. These projects are complex in nature because of the intersection of public and private interests and a range of diverse stakeholders. The advancement must be based in appropriate regulations being in place and having broad stakeholder engagement and support. I'm looking forward to today's event to further expand that learning and cross-knowledge sharing And we have a prolific lineup of speakers who bring experiences from our region and beyond. And what's exciting is to learn about the advancement of wholesale markets, particularly in Europe, and today's speakers will be sharing with us on that. What is obvious is that the advanced wholesale markets have developed to meet changing food system requirements and demands. And wholesale markets in Europe are a competitive outlet for farm produce and are pivotal in the supply of fresh, high-quality food. They play a vital role in food security and the well-being of consumers, as well as economic growth. And over the past year, I've been learning a lot from Hans and other colleagues, and also observing in many cities in Europe, we see that wholesale markets are still in existence. They sit side by side with large supermarket chains and yet still serve a purpose. In contrast, if we look at countries such as the Kyrgyz Republic, the current status of fresh produce in wholesale markets indicates that there's both a need for infrastructure development and organizational improvement. We can see that there's a lack of suitable infrastructure. The markets are largely still in the system of the old style bazaars, providing limited services to users. And so there's much scope for improving that and bringing convenience to buyers and sellers, having an organized management information system, and providing a controlled atmosphere for storage. So much to learn today, and importantly, I'd like to just briefly touch upon also that intersection of public and private sector participation and the consideration of that opportunity to have that interface as well. So much to think about, and I thank the team and presenters today for their time and effort to prepare their thoughts and presentations, and we very much look forward to this exciting and first of its kind event. Thank you, and back to you, Matthias.
Thank you very much, Yasmin. And with no further ado, now on to our first session. Hans will give us an overview of the key roles and functions of wholesale markets and why they're so important to food security and food safety as well. Hans Woltering is a principal natural resource and agriculture specialist in the Central and West Asia Department here at ADB. Hans, the floor is yours.
Great. Thank you, Matthias. And thank you, Yasmin and Jingfeng, for the introductory remarks. I'm going to give a relatively short introduction to modern wholesale market roles and functions. And I really would like everybody to be assured that the speakers that follow me are truly world-class, and we very much look forward to their contributions. That's where the key presentations really lie. So let's keep going. Next slide, please. So what are the key roles and functions of wholesale markets and agro-logistics centres? And some of these roles and functions, of course, go back millennium. They go back many, many years. As an example, the Sydney wholesale markets are about 130 years old now. The importance there is for the integration of supply chains, linking farmers and traders with retailers, supermarket chains, processors, buyers. So linking sellers with buyers. Aggregation of production, because we often have, whether you're in Europe with larger farmers, whether you're dealing with smaller farmers in Central Asia, it is to allow for aggregation and to facilitate distribution over space and time. So we have regions with surplus production to regions with deficits, and from periods of surplus to periods of scarcity. Thanks, Christine. Value addition. As time has progressed, we see more and more value addition in the form of sorting, packing, cooling, labeling, to enable demands in different market segments to be met. For example, bulk packs, family-sized, individual-sized portions, and exporter requirements. Of course, a more recent trend we see in some countries, many countries, is the individual pack, where you take it home and there's a complete meal with a variety of fresh produce inside. Business hub development. So wholesale markets facilitate a business zone hub effect, creating a deeper business enabling environment with specialist packing suppliers, transports, export agents, seed supply for growers, customs, finance, etc. And in the following presentations, you'll see a greater depth than is described there. And of course, food safety, quality, and traceability, which has become more important over time, and of course has become more important when less developed countries want to enter the export markets with SPS requirements and customs clearance. Thank you, Tim. Okay, wholesale markets for collection, storage, and distribution play an important role in food security. Efficient supply chains, I've put up there, equals lower prices. If we look at the extreme example in the retail space, we have Amazon with an extreme attention to supply chain efficiency and, of course, the lowest prices. So the same exists in the fresh food business. Post-farm losses can be reduced. Different studies have had losses in less developed country scenarios around 35–40%. In more advanced economies, that gets to 10% or less. So lower losses, of course, means improved supply. It also means lower prices because you're not having to factor loss into the pricing equation. Food availability can be improved through co-location of storage with wholesale markets to make use of surplus production, or for importation of peak seasonal surplus, or of course for processing when you have peak surplus through the co-location of processing facilities. Prices can be stabilized through both storage and logistics. Thanks, Christine. Wholesale market information services also support food security. So price trends in wholesale markets are passed on to consumers. Thus, the consumption of discretionary foods rise when prices drop due to seasonal oversupply. Wholesale markets provide a large-scale, efficient opportunity for public or private entities to collect market information and turn information into intelligence. For example, so that growers, importers, and retailers can achieve efficiency gains through identifying production and trading opportunities. Thanks, Tim. I just put up this slide. Many people would be aware of this sort of extent of price variability, but I put it up there so that you can see the sort of typical seasonal price variation in a range of products. And this example comes from Kazakhstan. The lowest price volatility is 100%, and I think it goes up to about fourfold. So wholesale markets help with price transmission and allowing for more efficient use of products at times of oversupply and low prices. Thanks, Tim. Wholesale markets, agricultural markets in the current marketing context and trends, there are inefficiencies, of course, in traditional value chains, which involve multiple actors between farm producers and consumers, which simply result in higher consumer prices without benefit to producers and, of course, limited benefit to consumers. Competitive and efficient value chains lead to lower consumer prices. The growth of urban populations, and I think the world just went through 50% not so long ago, live in urban settings, requires improved logistics to connect with distant farm production areas. Global trade is facilitated by wholesale markets, creating export opportunity, but also bringing competition from imports with quality and price competitive products. Thanks, Tim. The development of logistics and infrastructure technology. Some of the newer IT developments, blockchain, transport corridor networks, digital trading platforms, all these can fit within wholesale markets. These are not mutually exclusive. Standards, we have mandatory SPS, market access protocols, approved supplier schemes, for example, for supermarket chains and restaurants and airlines, and consumer functional attributes all can fit within wholesale markets. I'll just comment there, well, on the supermarket chains. If we look at the fresh production volume flows in Central Asia, at the moment, the most recent data we had access to showed about 55% going through wholesale markets and about 5% running through supermarket distributors. If we look at the European situation as an example, we've got 30% running through wholesale markets and about 30% running through the supermarkets. What I can tell you is that the supermarkets are often shopping in the wholesale markets. In Australia, in an earlier period of my career in life, I was supplying broccoli and lettuce into the Sydney markets, into Flemington, and we were certainly, it was very clear, whilst there were a lot of direct contracting and farmer contracting, or contract farming as it's also called by the supermarkets to farmers, they were also shopping every day markets. Next slide, please, Kristen. Yep. So modern wholesale market productivity gains are passed on to consumers, but farmers can also benefit. Farmers in the Central West Asian countries and traditional wholesale markets generally don't add value to their products. Farmer companies, cooperatives, and wholesale markets in Europe and Australia add value through operations such as cleaning, final grading, partial or advanced processing, cut and wrapped, bulk pallet assembly, standard certification, and a whole lot more functions. Many farmer cooperatives have taken part ownership and operation of wholesale markets in partnership with governments so that they can capture some of the value generation opportunity. Thanks, Tim. Conclusions, traditional wholesale markets function to link farmers to consumers, and there was a lot of traditional trust-based relationships, and they were local and personal. Demographic trends of urbanisation, regionalisation, globalisation have impacts on supply chain logistics, trade access and harmonisation, and trust in quality and food safety through standards, certification and traceability. My last slide on conclusions. Modern wholesale markets do deliver productivity gains through expanded links and market opportunities to make their food available, through value-adding functions, through efficient trading, and through improved handling and storage to reduce losses and improve price stability, traceability, and food safety. These gains can be passed on to consumers as well as farmers, but it's important that farmers also need to modernise to be competitive in increasingly open economies. Introduction comments and my introductory presentation. And I'm going to pass on to the next speaker and do the very short video. Palatini, the president of Italmercati. We thank you most kindly, Mr. President, for joining us for this presentation, and we look with interest to your words and experience. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello.
Yep, I'm hoping that your presentation comes up in a second.
Okay. We are ready? Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Palatini.
Hello, everybody. You are welcome. I'm speaking from Rome, and I want to speak you our experience, Italian experience in the wholesale market, in our network called Italmercati. Italmercati is something more than an association of markets. It's an association, but it's a company too. In the way we are trying to build is a new way to stay together. This important infrastructure like wholesale market. Okay, we can start. We can start in the past. Italy had a long tradition in wholesale market. This picture is at the beginning of the last century, when we started the industrialization of our city, and they were building the new wholesale market, and you see it's a very chaotic condition. But it's the starting of distribution of food. So we can go on, please. In the past, the network of all the wholesale market in Italy in the 20th century, the problem is that they were located inside the cities, and it's a problem of traffic. They have no shared and recognized procedures for health and food safety, and they have problem with waste, and the organization is quite chaotic, and so you have huge losses and a lack of capacity of meeting demand and increasingly more demanding consumers. So the old system it's not efficient for the new conditions. So in the 80s, the parliament decided to have a new plan to build a new network of wholesale market in Italy. The problem is to bring them outside the cities, and start a new model of market. So if we can do another slide, please. We have this national plan, and the objective was to provide a wide variety of healthy food to a growing population, increasingly demanding consumers. And this the objective is to have to give new infrastructure to the farmers, to the wholesalers, and to give more safe food with the right price for consumers. This is the objectives of this spending in these years. We can go in the most important challenges is a new management of waste, environmental, have give an answer to the climate change, and the traffic decongestion is very important, because you have this infrastructure inside the city, and you have a problem with a big truck inside in the city center. And the idea is to try to integrate the value chain, to give more opportunity to the small producer, to the small farmers that can help, that can enter in the wholesale market and sell directly, or with a wholesaler sell the product to the retail chain. So we have an important evolution of market, and then they became like the agri-food center. We have some picture. We can go on, please. You see Rome, Padua, Verona. There are some example of new wholesale market. They are biggest, and they are modern. They are more cold chain, and they are well organized for the cleaning, for the safety of the food, for the control. And so you have modern infrastructure with it's an Italian way of agri-food market. It's, I think, a good model in Europe, like our colleague. I see my friend of Rangis here is with us. Rangis is very important market, or Spanish market. We are on this way. But Italian, you know, we have a very old tradition in the food, good food, fresh food, and so we try to put this tradition inside this new infrastructure. Okay, we go. This other one, Bologna, Milano, and so on. We can go over. So, and now we are who we are. Italmercati is this network you see on the right. There is a map of Italy, and so you can see the different market from the north, from Milano, Torino, Verona, and so going to Rome until Sicily with Catania or Naples, because the network is everywhere in Italy. We have 16 main markets, and we have some highlights. You can see 22 billion euros is the sales of market companies. The property of this activity is generally mixed, public and private. Is an interesting model, I think. You can reply in other conditions, in other countries, and then we have the number of the sailing. We have 130 logistic platform, 700 farmers, 23,000 direct job, and so on, so on. And the most important activity is in the fruit and vegetables, but fish is too important inside our markets. We want to continue to invest for improving our distribution system, and Italmercati want to share the best practices, share the good innovation, and we invest in the constant renovation of infrastructure. And most important, I think, is the product tracking it's very important, because the consumers more and more want to know where from the product came. And another important activity is reduce the food waste. In each market we have some different activity, but all these activities are finalized to reduce the food waste and to have a good policy inside inside this activity. Then another important thing is the sustainability. We have the green energy, the solar energy. It's important now. More or less 1/3 of our energy is from renewable funds. It's a big number. It's very important. So it's important, for example, to reduce, to work for divided the waste, to have no waste, we want to take the waste for useful activity. We have a very nice example. The next one is social activity. When we the next one, please. This is a project that we make for contracts this food waste. We try to process the food, the fruit that it wasn't sell, and we have this kind of product, and this product is distributed in the social circuit. So we can see some picture. You have every day you have a product. The crop come to the market in some hours, and in the same time is inside on the retail shop, and in the same days you can eat in your home. It's a very good chain, very good system that consent to have this kind of this picture. You see zucchini, it's a typical Italian product. And so you have in the same time inside in the market place when you can process the product is, I think, for the fish or for the meat, for the fruit too. And it's important. In the last years we have the increasing of organic food. Organic became one of most important product that the consumers demand, and the markets organize themselves to offer this kind of product inside the market. Then we have a supermarket platform, and it's interesting these new activities. This cooking school or logistic platform is all different activity, because the new market is not only the selling, but around the selling you have all this activity: logistic, education, and so delivery, preparing food. All this activity is now in a new concept of modern market, and in Europe you need this kind of activity. We can have a list of please go on, please. We have different interesting. We have different companies. Obviously, we have farmers, wholesale, but we have logistics, supermarket, transport, quality, engineering, financial consultancy, law firms, so and so on. And you have service inside the market, and this is the service that you can offer inside. You can find the small farmers. You can find logistic and delivery system. You can find refrigerated platform. You can find quality control company, and support for export, and service for tracking products and the prices, transparency, and packing platform, and professional training, and so on and so on. So now the market became like a big hub where you find all this kind of different activity, and we say we call like the food hub. It's a place where you can find everything you need for the food chain, the big food chain. So we have now we have to think about the effect of the COVID pandemic in the markets. Markets are very important in this critical period, because they give food to everyone always. In each moment when you have any problem, the city, you have lockdown, stop to activity, people at home, but the products arrive on the table of the consumer. This is very important. The fresh products. So it's I think that it's very important, the role of, I would say, market in this moment. And I think that after that we have to invest more and more in this activity, because we see how much it's critics for our for our life. This is some activity that our operators do in the market. We can go over. We are closing, please. Come on. This is an example of a recent project to tracking the product and for the transparency of prices. There are two important roles for the public role of the market. We have to think that our market have economic activity, but they have a public role. It's important role and this is one of reason of this activity. Come on. And so I think that if we in some words, our strength, the connection with the strong Italian food sector, you know that Italy is one of the most important countries in this. Public and private equity, I said before, is this combination. I think it's a good model. This our infrastructures are modern, and we can reply this experience everywhere to adapt to the necessity and a new model. It's important model, I think, for the smallholders farmers, because Italy, the agriculture is very important. We have many small farmers, and this experience is important we can export this experience everywhere. So this are some of our expertise of Italmercati, but I invite you to come to Italy and visit our infrastructure, and you can see on field our experience. Thank you very much.
President Palatini, thank you very much for your presentation, much appreciated. And I hope some of us are able to take up your invitation to come across to Italy once we get through a bit more of this pandemic problem. So thank you kindly. And thank you also for hosting the group that we sent across last year. With much pleasure, I'd like to introduce Mr. Bertrand Amboise. Mr. Bertrand is the Director for International Cooperation, Department of Samaras, Runja. Bertrand.
Okay, thank you, Hans. Thank you, President Palottini. Thank you, Massimo. I'm very pleased to be here from Tashkent, Uzbekistan, where we are working for a fantastic project in order to support the implementation of a wholesale market in Uzbekistan with the support of the ADB. So very pleased to be here. Before presenting the international market of ranges and our vision in terms of innovation, let me just quickly explain how this model of infrastructure is more than ever strategic by two aspects. In Europe, the fresh food wholesale markets represent a strong industrial economic asset for the European Union, as they supply nearly 200 million consumers a day. So it's very important in the chain of food distributions. They market 25 million tons of fresh produce. That's huge. They generate nearly 150,000 jobs. So it's big ecosystems, big economic ecosystems. And with more than 70 billion euros in sales, the wholesale markets model is invited and adapted in many countries. So they present particular contributions to the fresh food distribution and the European economy by promoting quality and healthy food distribution. They ensure transparency and traceability, and they enhance local productions, and they present a big reduction in terms of environmental impacts. One more point which is very important, as discussed by President Pallottini, it is the impact of COVID-19. With the current pandemic related to the spread of the COVID-19 virus, the whole world is today facing an unprecedented health crisis. If we consider the origin of the pandemic, the food chain is always a source of epidemics. Think about Ebola, think about the bird flu, think about SARS. They always come by the intermediates of the food. Viruses emerge recurrently in the wild animal markets of Asia, because of the lack of hygiene standards in these markets. The circulation of viruses have a major impact of the agri-food chain. And last point, which is very important, the occurrence of a global epidemic or pandemic always leads to severe disruption of the global economy. So, wholesale markets have a central role in preventing future epidemics. They can play a very important role, a key role, by consolidating and centralizing agricultural production for a region or a country, and by demanding detailed information on the origin of the products. More points, a global network of modern wholesale markets will facilitate overall oversight, the introduction of international hygiene standards, and cooperation based on the improved sharing of information. So at the moment, more than ever, wholesale industry is strategic in the food distribution chain. So let's now present you very quickly the business model of Rungis International Market. Rungis is well located. It's located at 7 kilometers south of Paris. And we used to say Rungis International Market is one of the largest wholesale fresh markets in the world, offering an unrivaled variety of fresh produce and with over 2.9 million tons of food products passing through every year. Currently, by Rungis, we feed around 20 million of people. So it is very important, regarding the existing context. Rungis Market is a real ecosystem in the service of French people, feeding fresh products, urban logistics, terroir valorization, and French gastronomy heritage. Because as you know, in France, the gastronomy, the kitchen, the cuisine is something very important. And if you want to get the best food, the best gastronomy, you have to get the best products. And this is one of the main functions of Rungis Market. So, Rungis Market is a one-stop shopping. We have a big site on 234 hectares, and we welcome around 100,200 companies and 12,000 employees. We are divided in 5 universes: the fruit and veggies, the fish, the meat, the dairy products, and the flour. Each universe has retail buildings that brims with fresh food arrived by plane, track, and truck. It is very multimodal infrastructure, and we have many connection with main infrastructures. Next, please. In some key figures, it is important. In 2019, Rungis International Market turnover was around 9.72 billion of euros and 6.8 billion from wholesale and 2.8 from other activities exposed below. We have kind of double sources of turnover. Nevertheless, Semaris always try to innovate and invest in new ideas, such as the dematerializers Rungis marketplace, which was launched the same year. So we'll try to add some other sources of revenue by the launching of digital marketplace. I will speak about it later. Rungis is also a very diversified agro-logistic hub, particularly in 3 areas. In the matter of customer types, regarding geographical destination, and regarding procurement. For example, we have 3 main types of customer. We have the supermarket and hypermarkets. We have the catering and the retail, which represents 50% of all customers. And if we consider the main destination of our products, it is the Paris region, but 10% is destinated to the export market, and it increases a lot year after year. It means more and more year after year, Rungis market is dedicated to exportation. Rungis, it is also a famous brand. It's well known in France, it's well known in Europe, and it starts to be well known in, for example, in Asia. We have some partnership with Vietnam. I'm actually in Uzbekistan, Tashkent. We have a project in Kazakhstan. We have some project in Africa. So Rungis is well known, and it is also an exceptional worldwide reputation. You know, the brands represent for us a very significant intangible assets. And the Rungis International Market brands brought an exceptional reputation. For example, 87% of the French people associates Rungis with the markets of its operations. 92% of French have a good impression of Rungis International Markets. It is a very good image based on the quality of the products, basic of expertise, safety and scale, and the more emotional dimension of its gastronomic heritage. And to cover this ecosystem of foods, Rungis is very important. It's very important for the economy, and it's very important for the restaurant, and it is very important for the French citizens. Okay, Rungis knows how to communicate and always take part of many major events. For example, we are the partners of the Fête de la Gastronomie Food Festival. We provide a Rungis Literary Prize. We have some partnership with some museum like the Grand Palais in Paris, like the Musée de la Marine. And we are constantly innovating and improving our ecosystem with some new openings with the markets. We opened 5 years ago organic markets. We have some new innovation in terms of opening of new comptoir du carreau. It means farmers pavilions in order to attract local farmers to the market. So it's very important for us to communicate. Next. Rungis is also the favorite partner of many brands and dedicated teams. Okay, you will find all the details in the previous slides. Okay, let's have a talk regarding the Semaris. The Rungis International Markets opened in 1969. It was an initiative of the General de Gaulle. We decided to move the existing markets in a new location in Rungis. At this occasion, the Semaris, a semi-public company, was created to build and manage the markets. Semaris operates markets and supports the necessary real estate investments for the development and the operations of the market in exchange for rental incomes received from operators. The main shareholders of the Semaris, with the managing company of Rungis, are the French government with more than 33% and the private bank Crédit Agricole Assurance. as mentioned before, it is a very good system to combine public and private sectors for the management of this kind of strategic infrastructure. So with 50 years of experiences, Semaris has a unique know-how in the development and the management of innovative and efficient wholesale markets and new generation of logistic hubs. If we quickly review the Semaris business model, our revenue in 2019 represents more than 121 million of euro, and the major revenue is coming from rentals and fleets. We are a real estate company at the end, you know, and we rent around a total or global leased area of more than 900,000 square meter, with a very high rate of occupancy, up to 95%. So we are constantly developing new ways of rearrange and remove, redevelop our sites. Next. Our international experience is very strong. And the international department of the Semaris supports authorities and private companies on their projects. And we develop rigorous and effective methodology to set up wholesale markets abroad, with more than 70 million of technical assistance worldwide. As explained previously, at the moment we are working in Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, and in Philippines, in Vietnam, in Nigeria, in Hungary. So we have a lot of experience in the support and technical support of new generation of wholesale markets. Being a reference in the world and an institution in France, we ensure the protection of our brand image by the supervision of its use. And we have a kind of a big license agreement in order to transfer an expertise from the feasibility of the project to the management of the market. So we have 3 phases of long-term contract with a partner, where we work with them for around 50 years. Okay, let's now have a quick view in terms of innovation, and especially regarding the digital disruption. Digital disruption is very important because our model at the starting was orienting on the physical market, but year after year it changed. There is disruption, and it is becoming more and more digital. So as I said before, Rungis is a worldwide known brand and has a Renault ecosystem. For these reasons, Rungis has its own digital ecosystem, which is composed of 5 main components. We have the website with rangisinternational.com, with our flagship. It is a flagship of Rungis Market. We have myrungis.com with the market's buyers area. We have one more site with rangisimmobilier.com. That site is a kind of a business, is a site aimed at businesses operating at the market, where we propose some recruitment, some properties, some commercial contacts. One more site is Rungis Market. It is the online sales platform for buyers at the market. I will have more details regarding this point later. And buyer customer area. Semaris has been digitalizing the customer relation for a number of years now, notably by allowing buyers to create a buyer account via the customer area at the site myranges.com. So over 50 of all buyers and code applications are currently generated online. So now most of the buyer, they do their application online and they don't have to move and to queue at the office of Ranges to get the permit. So it is a big point. Next, please. Regarding operators' customer areas, the Ranges Immobilier site has been promoting the market property operation since 2015. This is a kind of showcase sites for Ranges market properties opportunities, and it's same as any company wishing to set up shop at the market or find out the premise available and the conditions van whose operating of the markets must adhere to. Next, please. Let's have some view on the marketplace. By managing its own e-commerce website, Semaris Marché de Rungis has in hand a tool to increase the add value of its market and to maximize its revenue. The Rungis marketplace is a digital tool dedicated to professionals. In light of these major issues presented by the digitalization of food purchases, it had become vital for Ranges, as the world's largest fresh food markets, to develop its own e-commerce platform, with a view to offering new wholesale solutions for professional customers in the food processing and catering industries, both in France and abroad. So it is a very important tool for us. How it works. Firstly, it has a search engine that allows to search by product sellers. We have also a products-based entry that allows to navigate by products category and seller-based entries that allows to navigate by sectors of activities. These tools also has a seller-specific histories to enable the user to view a trader's entire offering available on the platform. If we speak about the traffic, average daily traffic is around 1,300 visits, and with a new part of the traffic is done by a new players. 70% of visitors to Ranges markets are retailers, restaurateurs, or wholesalers. So they are players in the food industry. You know, we're not visitors from anywhere. We try to attract all the main players in the food industry at the scale of Paris or France to go and visit our websites. And we now have up to 4,000 who are available on the platform. Next, please. I'll speed up my presentation to stay in the schedule. The most particular products and the more popular products concerns the fish and the seafood. It's very popular. It attracts a lot of customers. And 60% of the quotation request concern just a short list of operators. At the end, only 5 operators, one in the food, one in the gourmet delicatessen business, one in the poultry. So there is a large offer, but large demand, but they concentrate on 3, 4, 5, 6 players. Okay. Good practices. In terms of product catalog, we present a coherent offering at the platform for the buyers. that is sufficiently representative of all products categories, particularly with regards to the most frequently searched terms. And we offer simplified products information management. We have a platform logistic. You know, we offer a very good solution in terms of logistic. At the end, the customer, they can select and buy many products in many shops, but at the end we can offer unique solution in terms of logistics. So that is a good point, you know, to push an efficiency logistic. In terms of legal, we had some tailor-made solution to offer good practices for the contract, and for the legal management. Next, please. And digitalization of vendor, it is also a big point. Next. And buyers recruitment, it is something very strategic. So we offer some days on sales analyzing. We have some tools in order to have all the data regarding the buyers. Next. And the conclusion is it is in the emerging post-COVID-19 world, the new generation of connected 2.0 wholesale markets are set to become key infrastructure regarding the control and organization of the agri-food chains. So the world after the COVID will offer some, I'm sure, crazy developments for the Semaris, for Rungis, for Intermercati to export their know and their expertise for international projects. So thank you all. I'm pleased to have this discussion with you.
Yeah, Bertrand, thank you very much for the contribution. We appreciate that very much, and enjoy Tashkent. It's a beautiful city.
Oh, it's nice.
If I could please invite Gilles Matelal. Welcome, Gilles. Gilles is the advisor and former head of agribusiness at the European Bank of Reconstruction and Development, with a lot of experience gained during his years with EBRD and the financing that they did in Eastern Europe. We look forward to your presentation. Thank you, Gilles.
Thank you very much. Thank you, and I'm delighted to talk after, the Italian and the French experience. Myself being French, so I'm very proud to hear the story of Rungis. Just maybe a word of warning. The EBRD wholesale market program was designed and implemented in the late 90s. It was a fairly different context with many of the countries moving from communism to a market economy and a different environment in the countries in which we operated. Altogether, we financed 7 wholesale markets in the region, and I will give you briefly the results of what has happened, and then I will draw on some lessons learned and maybe conclusion of what you could find useful in designing a new market today. We started with the Bucharest wholesale market, which was a fairly important loan, if I remember, $50 million loan at the time, and also in the Minsk wholesale market, a smaller market. Both markets were never really functioning. They've been built, but they never worked as a wholesale market. They worked as a storage space, and they were rented to wholesalers who were using either the cold storage or even the banana. We had banana ripening facilities. They were there probably in Bucharest because most of the wholesaling was done in say illegal open spaces or around retail markets. And the local authorities never really implemented the fact of forcing the local people to move away from illegal market to go to the brand new wholesale market. In Minsk, in addition, the location was wrong, and therefore it was not easy to access to the place. In Budapest was a different story, because when we arrived, the market was already operating in the city, and we only financed some upgrading of the market. And there, the operation worked better. The company was generating profit, especially after we also provide some technical assistance to improve the financial management. And we realized that actually most of the entrances were not paid, or actually were paid, but the guy who was receiving the money was keeping the money in his pocket. So by doing some financial audit, we were able to maximize the return on the market and work very well. In Bulgaria, it was a different approach. We had we were planning to finance the Sofia wholesale market and a network of farmers market or assembly markets throughout the countries. The Sofia market again was working, but it was privately owned. It was actually more like a wholesaler who was also renting space to other wholesalers. And we financed the upgrading, and that worked fairly well. But the farmer market never really started. We were concerned, so we convinced the authorities to start with one pilot project, and the pilot project completely failed to attract any farmer, because the farmers were not willing to pay the fees to use the market. And secondly, they were concerned that the market were a way for the local authorities to check on their tax payment or their standards. In Warsaw, we had already learned some lessons from Bucharest and Minsk. We tried to design the market a bit differently. We involved the users in the shareholding of the market, and they were given the share were exchanged against a holiday on paying entrance fees. The market was designed by initially Rungis, and then Bologna, market also helped on the design. It was fully built. It was one of the biggest covered area in Warsaw at the time. But unfortunately, same story as in Bucharest and in Minsk, the market users were not willing to use. They were mainly selling on the back of the truck in open spaces. Sometimes these open spaces were controlled by some informal groups, if I may say, and therefore they were not. We didn't manage, and it took almost 2 years. We didn't manage to really convince them to go, because one user doesn't want to go on his own. You have to have everybody to go. So the management worked eventually with the local police and the local authorities, and in one day, the people actually were moved to the market, and the market started functioning. Initially, the market was functioning only with the trucks and the people using the open space, or the parking area, and selling on the back. And then gradually they move into the wholesale spaces within the market. We had a flower market, we had a fruit and vegetable market, and we had a dry good market, and even they had an antique market on the weekends in order to try to maximize the return. Unfortunately, the market was never able to generate enough revenues to repay its loan, and the government ended up to pay on behalf of the wholesale market. In Croatia, it was an interesting story again. We had the wholesale market program, very similar to what Italy had, and we decided to finance a number of wholesale market in various cities. In Zagreb, in the capital, the market was already opening as an open space, basically, with some spaces on the floor, delimiting where the wholesalers would go. So there was absolutely no investment, and it was functioning really as a wholesale market. What we are financing is then to upgrade the market to cover the areas. There was no cooling facilities or things like that. This was done over the time, and eventually the market started to operate. In the regions, it really depended on the support of the local administration. In some regions, the market has been working fairly well, but in other regions, they completely failed and never really managed to attract anybody. And the last one was in Armenia, in Yerevan. Again, building on the experience we had and the mixed report, we decided we would start by a pilot phase. So we would start by just putting some tarmac on some open space and then getting the people to move. And then once the people would, the users would have moved on the market, then we would then invest on the second phase to provide more sophisticated facilities. And there again, because of most of the marketing, the wholesaling was controlled by some informal groups, basically criminal groups. The staff of the market were physically threatened, and the government decided to stop the program here and not to continue on the implementation. So our conclusion is that it was really not a great success. We had requests from Kyrgyzstan, you're talking about from Kazakhstan, from Uzbekistan to finance a new wholesale market. But we decided because of the mixed track record, we would finance more on of our effort on the private sector side, so more on the retail, financing the retailers, and then put the wholesale market on hold. Maybe just to try to emphasize a bit on the lessons learned, and thank you for doing this nice PowerPoint presentation. I'm impressed. The first point I would like to make is, what is a wholesale market? I think Hans mentioned it, but I want to emphasize this is a place where you are concentrating the supply and the demand, and it's working like a stock exchange. By concentrating the supply and the demand on one single space, you can have more transparency on prices, you can have better control on quality, you can have also more hygienic controls and these kind of things. So you're creating, when you're doing a wholesale market, you're really creating a monopoly, and because it is a monopoly, there has to be some kind of regulation. And in all the countries where wholesale market have been successful, there has been, first of all, a law, a regulation put in place by the governments, and that was preventing people to do any wholesaling outside of the design space of the wholesale market. So having the appropriate regulation and the willingness to implement the regulation is a very important aspect of the success story of the wholesale market, and that includes also the local authorities. Actually, I forgot to mention, in Budapest, for example, which was a success story, Budapest wholesale market was a loan without a sovereign guarantee, but with a municipal guarantee. So it was really the municipality of Budapest that was completely supporting the market. The second point I would like to make is that we believed, and it was a mistake, that by building a fancy facility with cooling facilities, banana ripening facilities, sorting and grading facilities, people will come and use the market, and that was a failure. And I think, the Rangis will confirm, initially the users of the market were not coming because they liked it. They were coming because they were forced by the local authorities to do so. And it was under the General de Gaulle, and indeed, and if I remember well, the army intervened to actually, force initially. Once you have reached the critical mass of getting all the users, both the suppliers and the customers on the singles place, then, the market is functioning. But getting, especially when you start with a greenfield site, getting the people to move by themselves just because they think the market is beautiful, and they will prepare to pay the fees, both the entrance fees and the rental fees, to use the market. I think is a mistake, and it has to be very careful there. The second point, and I think it is important for a development agency to have that in mind, is the financial sustainability. So, ADB will provide a loan to, a state to implement the market. Is the expectation that the markets will generate enough resources to repay these loans? Or is the expectation that the government will be willing to allocate budget and then to provide the investment free of charge to the customers? We should remind that actually in the case of Western Europe, most of the markets were not repaying, with the loans. They were actually provided by free of charge money from the government who invested. And in some cases, they were only expecting the benefit, the revenues generated by the market to repay to pay functioning, to pay the operation of the market, but not generating profit. And when we were talking about real estate, but the real estate, of course, the real estate was a great thing, provided the land was provided free of charge by the local authorities and by the state whenever possibility. So looking at financial sustainability and looking at it with an open eye, and understanding the level of fees that the customers will be willing to pay, I think is a very important aspect. The other aspect is designing of the market. You cannot design a market today like the markets were designed in the 60s, in the thing. And you would expect a bit like landline and mobile phone that things will move very fast. So it's very important to design this market in a very flexible way. Basically the basis of a wholesale market is a shed. Is a shed where you can draw some lines on the floor and render lines, in that way. So I think this is very important to keep the design very, very simple and very flexible, and not to, have some dream, done by some, technocrat or bureaucrats, of what could be a beautiful building, for the future. Location, I think, is important. One of the as we always say, and this is for not only wholesalers, but also for retailers, location. One of the reasons of the success of Rungis is because it's located next to the airport and also to the local transport facilities. So I think that's very important to give it a location that is easily accessible. And finally, the ownership structure and the corporate governance, because the market is not designed, it's an infrastructure. So it's not designed to maximize revenues. So the ownership has to be adjusted to that. And of course, it could be a cooperative. In some cases, it's been done as a cooperative, and the governance, if the governments are involved, then of course, they should be independent from government policies. They have to be, completely functioning, in a fairly independent way. All that is, I think, is very important. So if we move to the last slide, some of the conclusions. Of course, and I think I fully agree that the wholesale markets are needed. They can bring very important, benefit to the whole food value chain. They bring a lot of transparency, and in some cases, in some emerging market in particular, they have been fairly successful. But I think it is important to keep in mind that the countries are don't have the same resources than Western Europe, and it is important to design that in a very minimal way and to start in a phased approach to ensure that the customers will be moving to the facilities in the right way. Finally, I think we've seen some figures, but I believe that today in Western Europe, about 90% of the food comes from modern retailing. So either supermarkets, but also organized retail. Some of them can go through the wholesale market, but most of them have direct connection with the farmers themselves. By supporting modern food retailers, you can achieve, in my experience, this is what we have done. We have then moved into financing modern retailers, and actually we achieve the same result, but in a much more fast and efficient way than we would have done probably by working with the governments on the wholesale market. In Russia in particular, we supported some food retailers, and the speed of the development of these retailers and the impact they have on bringing the prices down, bringing
Tin, did we lose the speaker? Yep. Okay.
Yeah, I think we lost Gilles.
Okay, Gilles has disappeared. Okay, I thought maybe my connection had dropped. Let's keep moving forward then. Sorry, thank you, Gilles, if you can hear us. We'll keep moving forward. That's all in terms of the formal presentations, and I'm now going to hand over to my colleague Mathios, who is going to lead the next session with a number of discussants to reflect on the presentations we've had. And I'll hand over to you, Mathios. We are running about 5 to 7 minutes behind, but I'll leave it to you to somehow catch up. Thanks, Mathios.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Hans. Thank you so much to all the presenters for the insights so far. For this next session, we're going to hear from a very diverse group of speakers, and they are going to share with us their experiences and views on modern wholesale markets. So we have with us Thomas Jorge Truba. He's the agriculture engineer. He's an agriculture engineering consultant. He worked in various management functions for Mercamadrid and is the head of studies for Mercasa. We also have Safar Kashimov. He's the CEO and owner of the retail and supermarket chain Korsinka in Uzbekistan. We have Apipu Pataraprasit. He's the director of business development for the Thala Thai wholesale markets in Bangkok, Thailand. We have Rashid Bajwar. He's the CEO of the National Rural Support Program, and he's on the board of directors for the Pakistan Mercantile Exchange Limited. And lastly, we have Jainaku Akulbekova. She's the leading specialist in the inter-regional department at the Ministry of Economic and Finance of the Kyrgyz Republic. What I would like to do in this session is actually have a more free flow of ideas and experience, also given that they come from a very different set of areas. But I would like to give or to pose 2 questions to the speakers that will guide them in their 5-minute talk. So the first question is, given what you have heard in the previous presentations, are there any elements that you would like to highlight that will be very important in your area of work? And the second question is, based on your experience, what needs to be the strategy for wholesale markets to stay competitive in the future? So I go one by one. It should be just a very free flow of ideas. I turn first to Thomas. Thomas, are you there?
Yes. I'm here.
The floor is yours, Thomas.
Okay, thank you very much, Matthias. Well, good morning for all. I speak English very regular, but I want to congratulations to ADB initiative for this moment and for this opportunity, and for to join the experience about the Asiatic market with the European market. And two, I want to do congratulations to ABRD Wholesale Market Program. Is very interesting in the Eastern Europe, the new in the 19th year is the new market integrate the interesting develop for the wholesale market. Well, and it's too important for me to congratulations to the explanation the Italian market and the French arranged market too. To all experience and very important experience in European for that in this moment with we have the COVID-19 in Europe, the experience the wholesale market is definitive for combat the COVID-19, and congratulations for this explanation. Well, I try now here very quickly introduce my point of view like agricultural engineer with initiative private now like olive oil farmer, like wine farmer in two cooperatives in Spain, and my private experience like operator in Mercamadrid central transport, 2,000 square meter in business, in a new view about the activity, the central market or wholesale market is necessary to understand the activity, the operator into the central market for the institutional director market, because the market always is the activity, the market with the operator and fruit and vegetable and meat and fish. This is my experience in 34 years in the National Mercasa in Spain, like director and CEO in Mercamadrid, director and vice president 15 or 70 years ago. Now, for this, I want to read a collaboration about the future and competitiveness of central wholesale market. And this is my little work in this my contribution and this journey. Future and competitiveness of central wholesale market. The traditional wholesale distribution of food during the last 50 years through the wholesale market, which is carried out materially and commercially through its private operating agents, has failed during this period of time and continues to face functional and structural change to the day. All this to adapt in turn to profound change in the traditional commercial process that have occurred in the format in retail distribution and organized catering, and some of them whose model is proposed are currently playing an important role in the action of supplying the population with the purpose of the COVID-19 pandemic. Likewise, the technological change that have taken place during said 50 years mainly, in the classification of products and application of the mandatory safety and food traceability, both at the level of the productive sector as well as in post-harvest treatment and in the transport on packaging and packaging of the product considered. That determine the competition condition of the future market environment in which the concept of the wholesale supermarket must be developed in order to be competitive and ultimately continue to meet the objective of supplying sanitary and commercially guaranteed food products to the population of the area of influence of the wholesale market at fair and reasonable price. In this sense, the essential and traditional but not commercially agile public government initiative required by the policy of food sovereignty and socioeconomic assistance to the population. Classic argument of structural implementation and management of wholesale market in strategic urban areas based on commercial administrative concession to operating agents of said wholesale market should be restricted to function of market product health inspection and as functional authority to organize the safety of people and vehicle of transportation, ultimately ensuring and commercial management of operators that allow them to compete with the distribution center of large wholesale commercial distribution chains, supermarket, hypermarket, cash and carry, etc. Government action is most. Sorry.
You have half a minute left. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you for your attention and good morning for all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Thomas, and sorry for cutting you short here. We want to give everyone the chance. Also, there will be question and answer, so I'm just running a little bit faster now through the speakers to give just 1 or 2 minutes of their views, and then we turn to the audience for questions. So I'm calling now on Safar. Just 2 minutes, please, Safar. Your views from a supermarket and retail perspective. 2 minutes. Thank you, and thanks, Thomas.
Thank you.
Safar, the floor is yours.
Two minutes.
Okay, I'm not sure if Safar is online. If not, then I'm going to move to Apipu. Please, 2 minutes. Can you give your view on what you've heard so far? 2 minutes, and we will come back to you in the question and answer. Thank you. 2 minutes.
Sure. First of all, good morning and hello to all of you. It's a privilege to be in such a panel with such distinguished guests. And I'll try to summarize everything that all the content or the key takeaways from the previous presentations while trying to share my experience. So just a little context, I'm the business director at Dalatai. Dalatai is probably the largest wholesale market in Thailand and in ASEAN. Number one, we are a privately owned entity, which is the first key takeaway. Maybe something very different than in the West. I understand that in Europe or other countries, the shareholding structure is private with public relations, of which with Dalatai and with most of the wholesale markets in Thailand, all the wholesale markets in Thailand are privately owned and essentially family-owned businesses. So it works very much like a clan. So that's number one, the key takeaway, which has a direct impact on the development of the markets, because the incumbent role of a wholesale market is very much a public role, because the objective for us is how do we connect upstream with downstream demand. And that is very much a public responsibility. But in Thailand, it's the wholesale markets are all privately owned, which may make it hard to drive certain food strategies or food safety or security strategies, which are implemented by the government. And another thing that I think is very important is that we are, Thailand is still very much a developing country, and the wholesale market function is very much dependent on each of the supply chain or the structure of the supply chain. So for example, in Thailand, consists of our grower base is about 40% of the population, 20 million people out of 66 million people, which are growers or farmers. All of them are smallholder farmers. some of the things that they face or the key issues that they have is the ability to do post-harvest processes efficiently. They do not have the capital nor the necessary support to perform that function. So if one very quick example is that in Europe or in other countries, you may find the products at the market already in boxes, but not so in Thailand. In Thailand, it comes purely ungraded, unprocessed. It comes completely mixed in terms of quality, and all the post-harvest process happens within the wholesale market, which causes a lot of issues for management within the market. I guess I'll just jump into another thing that I think is very important is digitization. What we're finding is that in a less developed country, digitization or the readiness of the digital infrastructure is not as advanced as in other economies, which for us, one of the key issues we are having is data visibility and our ability to see what's happening upstream and also see what's happening downstream, which also ties into the fact that we are a private entity, which we may not be receiving as much support from the government as we should, because the most important part about driving wholesale market competitiveness in the future, I think, is working in collaboration with local governments and authorities to further advance each country and the regional and global food security or food initiatives. So I've just got to notice that I have a minute left. So I'd like to just summarize that one of our key strategies going forward is food safety, because we understand that Thailand is aging or a gray society. So we are trying to drive food safety across the board, because we understand that well-being is going to be increasingly important, and consumers are going to be much more aware about what they're consuming, traceability and whatnot, what we are doing is that we are focusing on raising awareness and stimulating and supporting our smallholder farmers to have, I guess, know-how and capital to adhere to food safety production standards, while also having an access to a place where they can sell, where our wholesale markets come into play. So I'll end with that, and if there's any additional questions, I'd be happy to take those offline. And thank you very much for letting me be a part of this panel.
Thank you so much, people. Very clear and concise. I'm hoping that we have a little bit more time after for Q&As. I'm turning now to Rashid. Rashid, the floor is yours. Please be concise, maybe just highlight your two main points that you would like to make in 1 or 2 minutes. Rashid, please.
Thank you very much. I'm very grateful for inviting me by the ADB for this panel in the seminar. Just to clarify that in South Asia, particularly countries like Pakistan, there are two types of markets. One is markets which sell fresh food and fruit. The problem with developing countries is that what about the crops? Because in commodities, particularly when the country's economy depends upon agriculture, in Pakistan, it's 18.9% of GDP, absorbing about 42.3% of the labor force. And in commodities, we mean commodity like grain, wheat, rice, cotton, sugarcane. So we're not talking about, so it's not the kind of likes of Europe, which we heard. Those kind of markets are present in South Asia, particularly in Pakistan and in India, I know for sure, that you have these wholesale markets. Every city has one. The issue is about the other part of it, because that's where the economy is dependent. And these kind of products, when there is a huge amount of post-harvest loss, about 30%, 30 to 35% is lost. And the loss is because of facilities. There's no facilities for drying. As a previous speaker was saying, that all the commodities there is no packaging, they come in bulk, there's no gradation and everything else. And in order to do all this, we have set up this whole concept and the ecosystem, which is in front of everybody, that in the middle, you find these little boxes about warehouses which are being accredited. So you have these commodities. I'm just talking about these grains and the products which are related to direct have an impact on the economy of a country. So if you have these accredited warehouses, as we can see, these blue boxes, and then there is a company which is what you call a collateral management company, which actually accreditates them. And now our regulator, the Securities Exchange Commission in Pakistan, they have given the go-ahead to set up such collateral management companies, so that these warehouses now become a source of quality products, and they are verified by third parties. The collateral management company allows them to issue electronic warehouse receipts, which is a negotiable instrument, so that the farmer, when he sells the crop, he can get money for the next crop, and he shouldn't sell everything. He will not be able to dry it. The networks of the warehouses, they will do all the processing for the farmer. And rather than selling at a price which is discounted, and we see all the time that when there is a surplus in crop, there is either a price failure, and if there is less crop, the price goes up. So it keeps on waxing and waning as a result of climatic conditions. So these kind of collateral management companies will then be able to aggregate all the products together based on the quality and the quantity, and a bank will come in to provide the necessary funding for the smallholder farmer for the next crop, and this whole thing will be traded at an exchange, which is a futures exchange. I am the chairperson of the country's only mercantile exchange called the Pakistan Mercantile Exchange, PMEX. And this is what we are trying to do, that any international buyer who is interested, for example, in rice, or is interested in cotton, or anything else which the country can offer, will be able to come on the platform of PMEX. He will have the surety that the quality and the quantity are the same, which are, because there's all these accredited warehouses, they will be third party verified. We are using the SGS Cotecna at the moment, which is an international company, to do the third party verification. And you can see that this whole ecosystem will be able to bridge the gap between the 30% loss which the smallholder farmer has. The moment this happens, you will see a surge. At the moment, smallholder farmer, he's not interested in quality. All he wants is to sell his crop because he can't store it. And he can't store it primarily because there is no drying facility available at his Ustav, and the drying facility is becoming more and more complicated and modernized. So if you're able to do that, just imagine that there would be an incentive for the smallholder farmer to grow more. So to me, I think this can be an answer to the problems of, at least I know for sure for South Asia, but I think it's a similar problem for other developing countries, that the smallholder farmer's income can actually go up to twice as what he's getting now. Because all the agents, the middlemen, the traditional middlemen, they get eliminated as a result. There's a direct link between the smallholder farmer and these blue boxes, which are the accredited warehouses, where he can come, he can sell it, he can store the product, he can get a warehouse receipt, it's a negotiable instrument, he can get the funding for the next crop, and he then hedges his crop. And he will sell it as and when he requires. And generally what happens in Pakistan, that there is a price variation of about 22% within 3 months of the crop. So you can see that that money, somebody is making that money, and it is these agents, the middlemen, we call them the artis. They're the ones who get the windfall, and the poor farmer keeps on getting into a vicious cycle of poverty. So in order to do that, if this structure is in place, and I'm not talking about anything which has not happened actually. So my company has already started. We have started issuing electronic warehouse receipts, and soon there is going to be a platform at the Pakistan Mercantile Exchange where buyers, international buyers, or even local buyers can buy products which have highest quality, which have been verified, and which can be sold to the prospective buyer. So this to me is the future market. Unless and until a future market has a futures exchange connected with it, it's very difficult. And it's all electronic. So we're talking about digitalization, it's all digital. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Rashid. And sorry for looking at the time. We need to move a little bit. the next up is Cinaglu. Please, Cinaglu, just in one minute, your 2 points that you would like to make before we move in question to question and answer. Please go ahead. Cinaglu, are you online? Okay, maybe we can come back to her later. I would like to move directly now. No, here she is. Okay, please, can you just in 1 minute make your 2 main points? Thank you. Over to you. We cannot hear you. Okay, we still, your mic does not seem to be connected. I cannot hear you.
Matthias, please go over to the English channel so you can hear the interpretation.
Okay, okay. Please, Cinaglu, go ahead. Can anyone hear the translation? I cannot hear it.
Well, she's on mute, I guess.
Okay, sorry. Your microphone is off. We cannot hear you. While we fix it, let's move into the question and answer section. We have one question, so please raise your hand if you have any questions. I have one question here from Bashir. It goes to the entire panel. His question has to do with the nutritious food along the value chain. Is anything done in support to the production of nutritious food from the field and the retention of nutrients along the value chain? This goes to the entire panel, so please, whoever would like to take this question, please go ahead.
I'll take that one, and I'll try to answer it as best as I can, Mr. Bashir. So I guess the question is, do we support the production of nutritious food and in the field and retain the nutritious value in transportation? That is definitely in the end game, something that we would like to be able to support. But for us in developing, I think, emerging market or developing country at the wholesale volume, nutrition and quality is a priority, but not as much of a priority as the volume of the product that is being moved. In terms of the maintenance of nutritious value and then during transportation, I think for small scale production of organic quality products, that's being done. But across the board in Thailand, across all 20 wholesale markets, I think the number one is still on trying to encourage growers to move towards sustainable farming practices, whether that be the good agricultural practices or organic. That is still very much a pain point and an issue for our grower base to be able to achieve. So in the long run as well, I think the development of cold chain and cold storage across the board is very important in pushing the maintenance of nutrition value across the transportation chain.
Thank you so much, Abipo. I'm turning to Arif for his question. Arif, please.
Thank you very much. I've got two questions. First is to Giles, because he cited certain Eastern European markets which were created, and in each, what I feel, one of the main lessons which came out was that it's not modern infrastructure alone which compels people to shift their business to that particular market. It is basically rules and regulations which are a compelling factor. And without that, you cannot make these markets a success. This is the feeling which I'm getting. Am I correct or wrong? I'd like Giles to comment on this thing. The second issue, which was is to Talat Thai. I mean, because he's raised, I think his market is the closest to our case, because here also The commission agents are all family businesses. These are the people who are actually running the businesses. And my question to you is that you are now at a far higher level than where our markets are functioning. But has the standardization started taking place? Has, I mean, the fresh produce now started coming in a more standardized form than when you all started? What has the journey been, you know, because obviously you raised a very, very important issue that they're small farmers and they do not have resources to go for post-harvest packaging of that nature. So could you dwell a little bit on the improvements which have taken place over a period of time?
Thank you, Arif. I'm first going to Gilles to answer your first question before Apipu takes your second one. Gilles, please go ahead.
Yeah, well, actually, my answer is yes, absolutely. You know, I think it is important because they are infrastructure and basically monopolies. So it is important to have the adequate regulation as a precondition. And more importantly than the regulation, the capacity to enforce that regulation and the willingness to enforce that regulation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gilles. Apipu, on the second question, please.
Sure. Thank you for the question. So in terms of standardization, just a little context is that, as I mentioned, there are 20 wholesale markets within Thailand, of which all are interconnected. One and another supplies and purchases from each other, of which standardizing by each market is not viable, and implementation-wise, it is unable to work. So what we've been doing is we've been working with the Wholesale Market Association, which is, I guess it's quite similar to Italmercati, where it consists of, it's an association of 20 wholesale markets, and we're working together to launch one big standardization Bible for us all to implement and adhere by. And then to my next point, I think it is very hard to implement if there are no rules and regulations. And then, just like Gilles said, enforcement is very important. And what else are we doing is that we're trying to be more involved upstream in terms of providing the growers or the smallholder farmers with a point of aggregation to consolidate their products. And then within those centers, we're looking at involving stakeholders or our partners that we can bring in to provide the growers with the necessary know-how, knowledge, equipment, or even capital, and then all the support that they need to be able to achieve standardization, whether it be on the grading or the quality of the product, on the safety level of the product, or the packaging in which they come in. Because what our end game or our end goal is very much to be like the markets in Europe or across the world, whereby once the product comes to the wholesale market, it's fully packed, and then we can just, it's easier to manage. And then when it goes downstream, the consumers or the buyers know exactly what they're getting. But right now, when the post-harvest process is inefficient and the entire supply chain essentially is quite fragmented, then the burden and the management comes at the wholesale market level. And we're trying to mobilize that together as a country through our Wholesale Market Association.
Thank you very much. I'm just going to check real quick on the two speakers that we skipped. Safar Kashimov, are you online to share your view on the from the supermarket perspective? If not, can we check real quick with Chainagul if her mic is working again? If not, then we just move to the.
Hello, здравствуйте.
Okay, perfect. Yes. Go ahead. Sorry, now it's not working anymore. I think.
Работает, да? Здравствуйте, уважаемые участники сегодняшнего вебинара. Я хочу поблагодарить за приглашение в данный вебинар. С удовольствием я начну свою презентацию на тему меры государственной поддержки в развитии сельского хозяйства Корейской Республики. Сельское хозяйство у нас в Казахстане является очень, так сказать, одной из ведущих сфер экономики, и у нас очень много фермерских хозяйств, крестьянских хозяйств, очень много мелких рынков также очень много овощехранилищ, да? То есть у нас отсутствует очень таких крупных торгово-логистических центров, у нас существует овощехранилища. И хотела отметить, что для поддержания этих субъектов предпринимательства в сфере сельскохозяйства у нас правительством Кыргызстана проводится ряд мероприятий, да? Принимаются соответствующие нормативно-правовые акты, соответствующие программы, да, в целях финансовой поддержки и других видов поддержки. Ну, я могу отметить, что принято очень много нормативных правовых актов именно вот в сфере финансирования, и одной из ведущих НПА является финансирование сельского хозяйства. ФСХ, это оно как бы утверждается ежегодно правительством. В настоящее время вот в этом году утверждено ФСХ 9, это 9-й год получается, 2013 года, и на эту программу выделяется определенное количество финансовых средств, денежных средств. Кроме этого, существует также программа финансирования субъектов предпринимательства, также предоставляются финансовые средства на выгодных условиях. И так, я могу сказать, что у нас в настоящее время совершенствуются именно нормативно-правовые акты, законы и механизмы в сфере поддержки предпринимателей в сфере сельского хозяйства. Так, еще, ну, правительством Кыргызстана принимается очень много ряд мероприятий в поддержке сельхозпроизводителей. И так как у нас вот в Кыргызстане очень много, мы производим больше, но потребляем очень мало. И создание этих оптовых рынков, создание этих торгово-логистических центров, агро-логистических центров является для нас это очень важным. И хочу поблагодарить, что за ваш опыт, что вы поделились вашим опытом. Для нас это очень важно в дальнейшем применять в нашем Кыргызстане. Кроме этого, для сельхозпроизводителей уделяется очень большое внимание именно в предоставлении налоговых преференций, налоговых льгот. Да? Например, могу привести, у них очень много налоговых преференций. Например, вот для ТЛЦБ, для торгово-логистических центров также предоставляется освобождается от некоторых видов налогов. Налог от добавленной стоимости, например, это для вот именно вот агрологических центров. И вот как раз у нас вот сейчас реализуется проект при поддержке АБР, строительство 4 агрологических центров и 2 крупных оптовых рынков сейчас у нас. И как раз таки вот они будут реализоваться в областях Кыргызстана. И как раз таки вот местные власти в этом вот районах, местные власти имеют право предоставлять для этих объектов, ну, бизнес-объектов, составлять налоговые преференции, да, они освобождаются налогов на имущество, освобождаются от налогов добавленной стоимости и других видов налогов на 5 лет. И кроме этого у нас правительством именно вот что касается вот правовой базы в сфере производственной.
We would need to close soon. Now, please, your last point, please. Thank you.
И тогда итог, что я хочу поблагодарить за приглашение это. И итоговое могу сказать, что мы очень хотим уделить большое внимание на развитие сельского хозяйства, именно использовать международный опыт, ваш опыт именно в сфере развития оптовых рынков и торгово-логистических центров. Спасибо.
Zainagul, спасибо большое.
Thank you very much. Hans, would you like to say some words?
No, спасибо, Zainagul. Thank you, Matthias, and thank you to all the discussants. I would like to kindly hand over to our Deputy Director General, Nian-Chan Zhang. I'm hoping, yes, Nian-Chan, if I can kindly hand over to you for closing remarks.
Thank you, Hans. Spasiba, everyone. It's my pleasure to deliver the closing remarks. Firstly, I would like to thank all the speakers for most interesting presentation. I think many of us didn't realize the breadth and scope of food business related operations conducting the advanced wholesale market of Europe. I personally visited several wholesale markets in Europe, including the one in Spain. So I'm quite impressed with the discussion today. I noted a few clear messages which were important and relating to advanced and well-managed wholesale markets. We need to have a strong food security through reduced food losses and efficient supply chains needs to be secured to ensure food prices are more affordable. And food safety through effective application of standards and technical knowledge, and thereby protecting the health and the security of citizens. And national economic output with enormous value adding activities, job creation and exports. I thank all of the speakers for the very interesting contributions and insights, and my IDB colleagues for organizing this event. So on this note, I close the event, and please stay safe during the ongoing pandemic. Thank you, Spasiba.
Thank you, Nian-Chan. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Cheers.
Thank you.
Request everyone to please turn their video on so that we could have one photo before we close off.
Okay.
Okay, for a while. Okay, all right. In 1, 2, 3. Smile. Okay, thank you so much, guys. Have a great day.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Very much, everybody.
Goodbye.
Bye, everyone. Bye, everybody.